On PM Express tonight, a conversation that has taken the country by storm in the last, 48 hours or so. Black Stars captaincy row, president's intervention and fallout. There's some latest development to this that we'll start with when we get into conversation itself. But why are we here? We're here because of one person's decision to quit the Black Stars, and he simply says he will not be captain. Well, the decision was to strip him of his captaincy, and that seemed to have offended Asamoah Gyan and has sparked a lot of interest, even in the highest political office. The president today had intervened in this matter. Gyan's retirement comes 1 month to the 2019 African Cup of Nations. In itself poses its own unique challenges that we have to look at tonight on the show. Gyan revealed this week that he was retiring from international football, but this wasn't any ordinary retirement because it had been sparked by this. Inside sources revealed that the coach had opted to make this gentleman, Didier, our substantive captain, which obviously didn't go down well with Asamoah Gyan. And we also understand that at the presidency, sources at the presidency suggest to us that Coach Kwesi Appiah has been in touch with the president already, or the president rather has been in touch with him and the rest of the people, surrounding the team to try and get an understanding of what is happening, but also to get the team to do something about this situation with Asamoah Gyan. We'll get into the nitty-gritties of that shortly, and what the president did or didn't do, and what the coach has said to the president, and what Asamoah Gyan is expected to do after that meeting. The president, we understand, will also meet with Asamoah Gyan on Thursday in person, but we know he's spoken to him on the phone already. We'll try and clarify all that. There's a lot that's happening on this that is unfolding still. And so a lot of this information is being updated as we speak. And when we start, we'll get into that. Now, the GFA, in the wake of all this, we're expecting some announcement as far as the squad is concerned. I understand that itself will have to happen at a later date. And so the fundamental questions remain. What are the implications of the Black Stars captaincy row on the AFCON 2019 is a fundamental question that we need to confront. But why is this such a big deal? Why all the fuss over 1 month's decision to retire from international football? I mean, did anybody think that Asamoah Gyan was going to play football forever, or that he was going to wear the captain's armband forever? And so why this row over this simple decision? I have the men to do the dissection for me, and we'll introduce them shortly after the break. Stay with us. My guest in the studio this evening, Michael Otieje, is a sports journalist, many years working in this industry, traveled with the Black Stars a lot across the globe. He understands the inner workings of the team, and I'm grateful that he joins us in the studio. Michael, thank you very much for your time.
Glad to be here.
Jerome Motri is a former editor, Kotoko Express, has been writing a lot as far as the sports sector scene is concerned, and he also joins me in it. These are people who really know what is happening behind what you've been reading in the headlines. And let's start with the latest, and this is a post from the communications director at Jubilee House, and this came in. He posted this on his Facebook page, as you can see there, 58 minutes ago. And Eugene Ahing says, and I want to go through that quickly so that we could discuss it, because this is the very latest on this. The President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, this afternoon held a meeting with the Minister for Youth and Sports, the President of the GFA Normalization Committee, and the chair of the management committee of the senior national football team, the Black Stars. The meeting, a continuation of the regular meetings the president holds with them, discussed, amongst others, the preparations being made towards AFCON 2019 and how to end Ghana's AFCON trophy drought. President Akufo-Addo subsequently also spoke on telephone with Asamoah Gyan, and informed him of the considerable national disquiet. That's a line we need to look into. Informed him of the considerable national disquiet over his decision to retire from the Black Stars. The president urged him, in the national interest, to rescind his decision to retire from the Black Stars and make himself available for selection by Coach Kwesi Appiah. Michael, your reaction?
I think Eugene has done a good job of sort of trying to take the sting out of the statement. I get the impression that the statement was trying to say this meeting of the president, Dr. Kofi Amoah, as head of the normalization committee, of Dr. KK Sapon as head of the Black Stars Management Committee, the Minister of Sports, Isaac Asiama, Kwesi Appiah himself, was not called specifically to address this Jan issue. And I think it's a response to this bemusement by people that the president could find this urgent enough to intervene. The other thing is that it's obvious in it that he also says there's considerable national disquiet.
Is there?
I'm not sure. I think basically he sort of is not judging the mood right, because there's also considerable disaffection towards the player for doing what he did. He's come across to a lot of people as being petulant, as being unduly selfish. Basically, he was behaving like the kid at the playground who says that, you know, this is my ball, and this is not even his ball. This is the national ball. Yeah. If you guys are not going to pick me in your first team, I'm not playing. This is the captain of the national team, in good standing over the last, since 28. So in good standing over the last 16 years. Okay. Who's given an incredible lot to this country, over 100 games, contributed 51 goals, but who's also been given a lot by this country. We gave him a debut at 17. We backed him throughout the way. The things that Jan faced may have been difficult, but they are the things that a lot of players face a lot of the time in the world. You are not playing well, people are unhappy, they tell you what they want to tell you. That's what football is about. We've given him a platform for global recognition and everything. I detest with a great deal of passion when I hear footballers say, we've sacrificed a lot for you, we're grateful. No. One World Cup is worth 100,000, that sort of thing. You know, this was a matter significant enough to take the attention of the number one executive in the country. Spent about an hour on this discussion, phoned up the player. I personally think the meeting is an indulgence of Jan. It's elevating him on a pedestal that he may deserve off the back of his captaincy, but one that does not do a lot of good to, you know, after Brazil 2014, our greatest disquiet, and since we're on the subject of disquiet, was that players had too much of a sense of entitlement to the team. Absolutely. It was so bad that we were prepared to fly a plane across the Atlantic Ocean to deliver them money that we could have waited a few weeks to pay. In a country where contractors can go for 3 years without being paid. Yeah. But we carried $4 million in a plane to pay players so they could play on one of the biggest stages of world football, a stage they previously would have begged for. Watch the machinations and the inner workings and everything to get into the team. So I am worried. Now it's obvious that, and Jan won't get his place as captain back. Kwesi Appiah has been very clear on this. I am worried that then the president speaks to him, he wants to come back. Okay, and this, you know the way these things work. Jan is going to say tomorrow, I say this is almost like puking and having to eat it back. Yeah. He threw out a lot of trash yesterday.
In his statement?
Yes. It didn't post him, it didn't paint him in the best light. He came across as I'm not going to use that word. He came across as selfish. He came across as somebody who didn't understand the team ethics. He came across as somebody who was basically saying, unless, see, when I have these discussions, I want to situate it within our own simple working environments. So this is like me. I go to work at TV3 one day, and my bosses call me to say, you know, for some reason, you're no longer group head of sports in this organization. We are changing your role, or for some reason, you're not a sports anchor. We think you're best utilized as a producer. I say to my boss, if you don't retain me as a producer, I will leave. As an anchor, I will leave. Then I just don't keep quiet about it.
Yeah.
I hand it out to all these blogs hungry for something to write, and they descend heavily. I reveal the secrets of the conversation I had with my boss. I suggest that, you know, I plant my cohorts to suggest that he was not thinking right. You know, with all these disrespectful comments about how Kwesi Appiah supposedly had gone to see a prophet and all that. It's despicable. Then I go home, and then my chief executive calls me, and I say, okay, it's okay, I will come back. How do I work in that environment? How do I relate to them? How do I deal with the same people? How does Jan deal with the Kwesi Appiah and the Black Stars?
And that's a fundamental conversation should come to, because that's the bigger question. What this means for the team, for Ghana football that we are trying to heal. We have a normalization committee because Ghana football is almost gone. What does it do to all that effort that this government had put in already to try and fix the problem? But Jerome, your comment on the president's action tonight?
Well, not surprising, because, I mean, that's how we've done things. A lot of the times, issues come up and you would expect that people put in charge of those issues, and here I'm referring to football, will take direct control of it, stamp the authority on the matters, and put them where they are. It has always been the case that the issues go overboard, or it comes out as something they cannot handle, so that a higher figure must come in. And that's why the president will come in.
Should the president have gotten involved in this?
I don't think so.
You shouldn't have?
Yes, because, but, I mean, there's a history to all of these things. Which is that's how we've been doing things.
Okay.
It is always going to be like that until we get to the point where whoever will lead our football will have the courage and the authority to put matters where they are. We will always have to run to the president. I mean, the statement you read, Michael was saying that Eugene tried to take the sting out of it. It is true. But every one of us also know that the president did what he did because of the tension that was rising.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that not until we come to the point where people placed in the authority of football would take matters as they are and deal with them, the president will have to come into matters like this. And it's not the best for us.
So you think it's a failure of Black Stars management or normalization committee? That the president was forced to come in because they didn't do something?
To some extent. But, I mean, if I say completely, I may not be fair to the committee and maybe the sports ministry, because the understanding we get from the statement is that it was more or less a routine stuff they've been doing. You know, and this issue probably came just at the time that they needed to see the president.
It's almost as if this was an afterthought, you know, like, you know, yeah, you know, we're doing a regular meeting, and after that, you know, we phone them.
And all that. But I think, I mean, to be blunt, Jan overreacted. For me, it was more of an angry reaction to what the coach did. And given the fact that the coach did not wake up out of the blue, just did what he did, gives me the impression that Jan didn't act well.
When you say didn't wake up out of the blue,
I mean,
had the coach been planning this, or Jan knew about this before it happened?
Yes, everybody knows that the coach discussed this with him.
Oh, okay.
Gave him the chance to think about it.
So that's why he disclosed the conversation he's had with the coach.
And you see, we are not being fair to the coach. I have said that we need to respect the authority of the coach.
Everywhere in the world, in football, you have to.
Some of us have had calls to say, Kwesi Appiah is not his own man, he is weak, he's not able to take decisions. Here is the case, he puts his feet down and say that, Jan, I'll take you to AFCON, but I think you should be general captain. And people say, he shouldn't have done that. The problem with how we have run Black Stars, and I said this in an article today, that we seem to have always paid attention to matters that really, in my view, are not footballing matters, are not matters that really play up on the pitch. These are matters that should be sorted in the boardroom. But we seem to give more attention to those issues. And at the end of the day, instead of concentrating on what we should be doing on the field, we pay so much attention to these issues. And they always take us off where we should be.
Michael, has the coach now been undermined beyond repair?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it depends on how you look at this. He went to that meeting. He was asked to state his position. He stated it very clearly. He was unambiguous in the fact that he's made a decision about who his captain is, and he speaks to his ability to be able to make his own decision. He stood by it. He had the backing of the people he had to have the backing of. There were people in that meeting who understood the principle of why the coach had to be his own man. PP. It's that's what it is. Maybe sometimes I'm a bit biased when I'm discussing Kwesi Appiah, but I think you've got a simple situation here. I think first of all, if I had my way, don't even get into this habit of wanting to name a captain and a general captain. Yeah. It's a recipe for chaos.
By the way, what is a general captain?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
I thought this was like a start, because I thought maybe I'm the only person.
I've been trying to figure it out, but I know that it's something that's happened over a period.
So we've had this before?
It's been an arrangement before.
Okay. Even our clubs do it.
In 2010, Stephen Appiah was general captain at the World Cup. John Mensah was the captain because he was the one who was playing. In fact, I pulled out a story from Go.com today done by Juliet Bewa. In 2013, just before the Nations Cup, when Asamoah Gyan was confirmed as captain of the Black Stars on the eve of the tournament, and John Mensah was made general captain. The difference is that Mensah didn't throw tantrums. Okay. Mensah was unattached at club level.
Okay.
He wasn't being taken as a member of the team. Gyan's difficulty, and this is where the selfishness comes in, is that he doesn't know how he will deal with having to be in a team where he's been part of a team where he's not captain. It comes across to me as saying, unless I'm captain, which I have been the last 6 years, I'm not playing. So if I had my way, Kwesi should never have gone down that route, because I think it's fairly simple. You take a team to a tournament, you pick a first 11, Gyan is not part, he's not captain.
Yes.
This is not rocket science. You pick a team he's good enough to start, he is your captain for the day. In any case, have we become so structured as a team that we can only recognize figures of authority based on a plastic armband? No. Figures of authority in a team, like you walk everywhere. You walk into the newsroom, there are people who are not necessarily your sub-editors.
But the bottom was the more influential people.
Exactly. Yeah. Because they are good at what they do, they have the right contacts, they have the right... It happens in every office. Sometimes you derive your leadership from just how good you are as a person. And Gyan has been very good in a national shirt. That gives him enough authority. So we really didn't need to go down that lane. That said, somebody who is in charge of the team decided, this is the way I want to go.
Yeah.
We may not like it, I don't like it, but that is his prerogative. Once he makes that decision, everybody just supports him and we all go. I wanted to address the issue about what this says about the management of the team. I'm not sure, because coach has had incredible support, especially from the management committee, headed by Dr. KK.
You mean Kwesi Appiah?
Yes. He's had their full backing, he's had the conversations, they've been insistent that unless you allow him to do what you're doing, you're undermining him. And you can, from everything that happened today, and this is not just the statement trying to color code everything the president said, but apparently the president was very open. Simply said, what do you think? The president's, the history of the president getting involved in this is basically because he's made it a mission. It's something he said over and over again, that Ghana should win the Nations Cup. I always think there's a problem. We become obsessed when the moment we go down that line. Then all of a sudden everybody thinks that they have a say and everything. But the president has met Kwesi Appiah a few times in the past. It was never an issue because there was really no issue. So when you look at it, in 2013, the day you met John Mahama before he rescinded his decision, our political figures find in football valuable social capital. and every time they meet these figures, the cameras are there, the pictures are there. Look at the swiftness of the statement and everything. They know that there's something in it, and they are trying to lap on it. And my hope is that whilst this may not have damaged Kwesi Appiah fully, it is creating the most complicated situation for him.
Yeah.
Say tomorrow John comes to say, okay, I spoke to the president, now I want to play.
Wow. What does the coach do?
And I know that the coach had Asamoah Gyan in his list. In the list that, in fact, when you look at Gyan's own statement, it was obvious that he was not getting worked up because he was not going to the Nations Cup. Yeah. He was getting worked up because he was not going to the Nations Cup as captain, which are two different things. So, in essence, Kwesi Appiah has won. He said, I will take you to the tournament, but you will not be my captain. Asamoah Gyan says, I would rather not play. The president speaks to Gyan, and apparently he will change his mind. We have no confirmation of that. But he changes his mind. Then what? He goes to the team, doesn't play. What sort of mood is he? Will his mood change all of a sudden because he spoke to the president and he's in that team for 1 month throughout the period when they are in Abu Dhabi preparing, and when they play those friendly, they're in Abu Dhabi for 2 to 3 weeks. Then they go to Egypt. You are camped in the same place, in the same hotel, in the same in the same space. You are walking into the dining room together. The Black Stars camp is such an intimate place. Those players live on the same floor. They are constantly in meetings together. They are having meals together. You are late for meals. You pay a fine and everything. Can you imagine the tension in the first few days?
Yeah, and Jerome, that is the problem, isn't it?
Yes, and that is the point I have been referring to, that we do not need to create these things for ourselves. First of all, there's a difficulty raising a team, and I'm talking about getting a team, a proper team in place to win the competition. We've tried in the last 37 or so years, we've not been able to do it. Now there's an opportunity.
Even with the so-called golden age that Gyan was part of.
Exactly. Now there's an opportunity to try again, and here we are creating the very problems that have the capacity to take us away from why we are going to the Africa.
And that's such a powerful point. And you made a point about political social capital. And when you made a point, this struck me, that actually, if you look at the history, the politicians seem to have been on the wrong end of the stick when it comes to their involvement in football. It hasn't really benefited them. John Mahama, one of the reasons why people really hated him was because of the way he handled and their inability to even implement their own committee report afterwards. We all know the famous case of the minister who, anytime he travels to what the Black Stars and we lose, we say he's a reason why. I think the only government that I can say benefited was what's the name of the guy? Osafo Maafo. Because the first time he went to the
and you remember in 82 when Rollins made a last-minute decision to say this team is going to the Nations Cup, and the team went to win the last one. I think in 78 it was Achampong who abridged the league and sent the team there. President Nkrumah was heavily involved in the early years, though two Nations Cup back to back.
Let me bring you make it a point.
I'm just hoping that Gyan will not come back. But
that he will not respect the president's wishes?
No, he would. I mean, he would. But if his presence is going to create tension in camp, then he better stay away. But if he's coming, I would expect the situation where he'll go to the coach, probably apologize to him, apologize to the rest of the players, make them understand that we are humans. These things are bound to happen sometimes. So that the tendency of having his presence creating some tension within them is killed. If that is not done, relationship between him and some of the players will be difficult. And that has a tendency of affecting team performance.
And there's something you said, which is that the reason why we have failed at these big tournaments is precisely what is repeating itself.
Sure, and for me, it's disappointing.
So why are we not learning? I mean, that's for me the big question.
I think.
Why do we keep doing this?
Previously,
going through this vicious cycle.
Previously, it would have been easy to blame how the team is managed. But now, like Michael said, I think the management team is doing well. I mean, I was a witness to some of the things they did in Abu Dhabi. I mean, hoping that the team will go there in June and have their campaign and go to Egypt and see what will happen. The problem with this incident is with how Gyan has reacted. Not so much about how people in the team has managed it.
So you think Gyan is the problem here?
Yeah, of course. It's very obvious.
But what if I submit to you that Jan is not the problem, but how the political powers have reacted to Jan's issue? Because I say that because we all love football. We watch club football. If Pep Guardiola had said to Vincent Kompany that I am taking, you're no longer my captain, you're general captain, assuming they have something like that, and and Vincent Kompany had issued a statement like that, we know the second thing that will follow is you're out of the team.
Exactly.
So my point is, if you bring it back to the local football, what should have happened automatically after Jan had done that was for the coach to say, I'm not taking you at all. You're not going to be my squad.
But actually, football, club football, provides us the biggest lessons that these are things that happens.
True.
Remember when Carlos Tevez stayed away playing golf for that long stretch? It happens in club football. It happens in club football. See, the interest points in football are so many that the idea of a completely independent coach or manager is delusional.
Okay. Yeah.
When the team wants to prepare for the Nations Cup campaign and all that, there will be almost like club level pre-season. Managers spend all the time mooning about the travel. Go to Japan, go to the USA, go here and there. But you go because that's what oils the commercial machinery. It pays you the money for you to be paid.
Sarri is complaining that they have to travel and play a game before.
But that's what pays him 250,000. Part of what pays him that. And that trip was part of the arrangement they did in getting Pulisic for 58 million pounds. The states and government officials and everything getting involved is for a simple reason. The head of your management committee is Dr. Kike Sapon, former Kotoko chief executive, but also head of chief executive of GMPC.
Oh, he is.
GMPC. GMPC is the biggest financial backer of the Black Stars.
And he's a politician.
Sure.
Exactly. But you could ideally excuse his involvement in that level. Traditionally, apart from the period around when Goldfields Ghana was the prime sponsor of the Black Stars, when they paid the salaries of the coaches and everything, the Black Stars derived almost its financial support exclusively from government. It was post-2006 where we became a brand viable enough. So it was Goldfields Ghana that was paying the salaries of the coaches. Then they could pay for match fees and all that. But even in those periods, the ministry and the government was still chipping in with match bonuses and the rest. And simply, if you're paying, you want to have an element of say. I'm just suggesting that it is possible for these influences to exist without it being mainstream, without it being a public show, without it creating a facade of disintegrating. Because when Guardiola makes decisions, Guardiola is likely, especially when they are not necessarily non-footballing decisions, Guardiola is likely to say, for instance, the decision about companies' contracts, whether he gets a new contract and the rest, is likely to be one that Guardiola may have to discuss with different layers of executives in the club. He may have a strong footballing case. You know the famous story of how clubs were pitching for players from China, from Japan and the rest, because the market had become big. Chelsea's signing of Pulisic provides a potential game changer into making them a bigger club in the USA than they've ever been. And these are little things that goes beyond the merit of the coach. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that you discuss. I think it's a problem if you impose anything. And I'm glad that the president says it's not done.
Jeremy, you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
So where do you stand on the question? Is it Jan or is the way the power brokers have handled this, i.e. the president and the political powers?
In this particular case, I would say
Put it on Jan.
Yes, because if he had not issued a statement, if he had not reacted the way he did, the president probably wouldn't have come in.
But if the president had ignored him and they took him to the thing, he would still have been, this would have been excluded.
Yeah, but I mean, these things happen.
Okay.
Jan, we should understand, carries some weight.
He does?
Yes, I mean, he has clout.
Explain that to me, because that's the thing I don't understand. Why is there so much fuss about this? What about John?
Michael began by talking about when he started playing for the national team. He was 17 years. He's played over 100 matches. He scored half of those matches. He scored 51 goals or so. That clearly tells you that
It's an incredible international
yes.
return.
And if we have to go back into history, he's about the only player that has reached that mark.
Oh, for Ghana?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Record
So
goal scorer.
you cannot.
Is that record goal scorer?
Yes.
Okay.
You cannot overlook that and say he's nobody. So you should go away with this.
What about his influence on the team, the current crop of players?
I cannot exactly gauge what it is because
I'm trying to get at why do we need him at all? Because the president says rescind and come and join. Why do we need John?
I think for what he has represented, we need to consider that Jan has represented a certain figure who we cannot say, because you are saying this, just go away.
We can't say that to him?
No, we cannot. We have to be.
Really?
No, you see, we have to look at what he has done for the team. I mean,
So this is about past history, not what he represents today.
If it were to be any other
Who makes
player,
football decisions based on what you've done in the past? I just want to hear him out because it's interesting to me.
I'll give you a local example.
Isn't that a problem?
That I'm so familiar with. Stephen Odro, when he was at Kotoko, he was not playing for a long time.
Okay.
But his influence. People would say he's done this with the team, he's this, the fans like him and all that. You put all those considerations together and say, okay, he cannot be playing as he would wish. Okay. But for political reasons, let's add him. So that you satisfy a group of people who will create problems for you if you take that figure out.
My question to you is, these group we are talking about, are they footballing people, as in fellow players in the team, or external people who don't really, are not going to be on the pitch?
Majority of them are fans who will not be on the pitch.
For Jan, you mean?
Yes,
but why? But why should that be a consideration?
No, but you know that's how football works.
But but this is what you're saying is very interesting to me. So I'm asking, what's Jan's influence on this? I'll come to you. I want to ask that. What is Jan's influence on the squad, on this crop of Black Stars players?
As it is now, on the pitch, you and I know it's almost nothing until
here we go.
Until the last few weeks that he started scoring. But I'm saying that, given what he has done in the last 6-7 years or so, you cannot just say...
Because what? You will make a few Ghanaians and fans happy.
No, not that. He has represented a certain image.
But your point you're making is that he doesn't add anything to the football on the pitch. You made a point at the beginning.
That's why
the pitch issue should be the most important issue.
Exactly.
And not anything else. So why are we including Jan? Because some external factor.
It gets to a point where you have to look at those factors too. And Kwesi Appiah knows that. Kwesi Appiah knows that Jan may not be...
What you're saying is very fascinating.
Yes. Jan may not be in the form that everybody
will say.
Because of those factors, I'm telling you.
But not the pitch, on the pitch factors.
Everybody who is in football knows it.
No, this is a comparison. When Stephen Appiah was made the general captain and he traveled with the team when we knew he was not going to play, because we knew his influence on the squad. It
was the same.
His influence on the squad that was going to play was significant.
Yes.
That when he speaks, the squad were likely to listen to him. But Jan hasn't got that, so why?
Jan doesn't have that. But there are other things he has you cannot ignore.
I'm fascinated by this.
But you take a team of 23 to a tournament. The idea is that of the 23, 11 will play. Every match day you could call on anybody. I think the thinking of the coach clearly is that in the worst case scenario, Jan is a good option to call off. Worst case scenario, off the bench. That is a footballing decision. The second thing is that this season Jan has scored 6 goals for Kayserispor in Turkey. Okay. Now, in comparison to the other striking options available to the team, Jordan Ayew, Crystal Palace, 1 league goal and 2 in cup competitions. Emmanuel Boateng, touted as a potential future after scoring twice a hat-trick against Barcelona. He's gone off to China, 1 goal. Rafael Jamina, who I really genuinely thought was going to become an answer to Jan, started in brilliant fashion for Ghana. His numbers when he was in Switzerland was great. He's gone to Levante, can't get games, has not scored a single goal this season.
Okay.
Richmond Boachi Adam is suffering from injury, but he has 13 in 15 games. You've got all these factors. Within the sporting argument, even if he wasn't a Samoa Jan, the coach will consider whether to take him or not. The other thing as well is that you have a player who has scored 9 straight tournaments under his bag. The only one at international level to score in all of them. He scored a goal in every international tournament that he's played in. So if you want to take, for instance, Jordan Ayew, what is your argument for not taking Jan?
Yeah.
Okay.
In a sporting sense, there really is not. You mentioned the Stephen Appiah case.
Yeah.
And I want people to sometimes rewind back to the impact he had when he came on against Uruguay. We may not have won, but it was a massive influence. So I'm saying
Jan,
that
from what I'm hearing, hasn't got that influence over the team now.
he's not got influence judging from the regular Jan we've known. We've known Jan to be the guy who is spraying the goals around. He's not scored for us since July 2017, but so has Dede Ayew. Dede Ayew actually has 14 goals in his Black Stars career. 8 of those goals he scored at the Nations Cup. And he scored another 2 playing in World Cup. 10 of his goals for Ghana in almost 100 appearances have come in a tournament setting. Is that the most impressive return? No. But you will take him to a tournament because he comes alive in a tournament situation. And if you're a coach like Kwesi Appiah, who's been part of the same setup since 2010, it will play on your mind. There are players you say, this guy in 1990, Toto Schillaci, off prison for Italy, major influence. There is the Roger Miller example in Cameroon. Sometimes in a tournament setting, you say, I could make do with this guy off the bench because it's not everybody who is going to play anyway. This also is not the case where the player is completely unattached, doesn't play football. He played last weekend.
Oh, okay.
So you can, exactly. So you can say that, all things considered, I can let him go out one last time. I have a big issue with this obsession with Ghanaian players. We should let them leave the scene nicely. All of them, when they are getting into the Black Stars, they don't consider that.
They don't consider that. Yeah.
In 2002, we just let the likes of Ahimfo, C.K. Akuno and the rest depart the scene and just brought in new set of players. Derek Boateng, Michael Essien and the rest. When we were facing Derek Boateng and the rest of them, they had the same complaints. We made Jan a national priority in 2003, after that 2002. How much did you see him? We saw potential. Even when he was not playing, we saw potential. When he went to Italy, he was not playing regularly. We took him to the Olympic team. He had something we wanted. We had something we had something he wanted. We had a platform. He had talent, and the two came together nicely. What I don't understand is how all of a sudden these players then, after every major tournament, begin to think that we sort of should be grateful to them. So the constant discussions about money is evidence of that. The problems with the World Cup in 2014 is, and that's where my slight disappointment with the political thing is. In 2014, we became caught up in that money nonsense because we almost felt we were on the verge of something divine. We said, oh, we were quarterfinalists in 2010. We missed semi-final Bayern.
So this time we can go.
So let's
put everything in. We're almost there now. This time too.
That's
dangerous.
And we put players in the hotel in Miami, Hyatt. They didn't want it. They wanted somewhere else. There was constant chaos. The team was getting involved in too many commercial activities. The camp in Brazil was like a dozen of meetings on a regular basis. Nothing seemed right. And I think this time too, there seemed to be just too much obsession with wanting to win. Football teams play best when everybody calms down.
Yeah.
When the level of expectation is managed. When you allow the coach to do his job. And I really would have expected that, especially after Brazil 2014. Those players showed us their true colors. My problem is the way we are reacting to this Jan thing is going back to reinforce the belief that they are some special human beings. They are not. They are not serving
For the
us.
president to get involved.
They are not serving us. He gets involved in a lot of things I can understand.
Yeah.
But can you imagine tomorrow teachers go, there's a small issue somewhere and they say, because the people will want to know, are you that interested in whether Samoa plays for us or not?
It is just because of how we have treated them. I have had a problem with, for instance, their bonus structure. I don't know how it's going to be this time, but I've had reports that say that they're going to be paid winning bonuses after every match, which I think is wrong. Because at a point we were made to understand that the $10,000 was too much.
Hey, $10,000 for what? Per match?
Yeah, for
wow.
every win.
That was a win bonus for a long time.
Yeah. If it was slashed to 5,000, I think it should be there. I've heard that people are saying, no, this time we want to win it, so we have to give more. There have been countries who did not pay as much as we have paid, yet won competitions that we couldn't win. I think the players feel that way just because of how we have treated them. And if we don't stop it, it is going to get to a point where we may not be able to control anyone, because at the end of the day, they will think that they are doing us a service, when it is the nation that has given them the platform to be doing what they are doing. Michael mentioned talent meeting the platform we give them. That will always be the case. But the platform we give them is bigger than whatever talent they have. And the point is this: if this set of players are to be taken off with another set coming in, we may not do well in the next few years. But in some time to come, we will get the best out of the new ones we will pick. Proving the point that if you are not ready to play because we are not pampering you well enough, then go. We'll take another set and make sure we get the best out.
We have an example from Germany. They just did that, and there was a lot of chaos, but the coach stood by the decision to sack everybody else and bring in fresh blood. When we return from the break, how is this going to affect our attempt to normalize Ghana football, if at all? But also, how do we fix this problem that this Jan scenario has created? So if tomorrow he says I've rescinded and is returned to the camp of the Black Stars, we all know there's going to be issues there. How do we fix that? Because take it or leave it, it will still help Ghana if we can win that that tournament that we've been seeking to win for years. And then we'll assess our chances ahead of that CAF tournament. Stay with us here on PM Express. So live on PM Express, Michael TJ sports journalist, Jerome Mochire, former editor, Kotoko Express. So Jerome, the CAF tournament is just like a month away. Yeah. This has happened. How do we fix this? Because we still need to get ready.
We don't have a choice. I think the coach and the management team must just go on with their plans. They've already had something in mind. They are going to Abu Dhabi. Is it 1st of June or so? Yeah. Yeah. They should keep to that plan. If Jan goes with them, like I said, he should apologize to the coach. He should apologize to the rest of the players. Make them understand that it was a slip, but we have to move on. If that can be done, they should just concentrate on whatever arrangements they've made in Abu Dhabi and make sure that what we want to get from that training camp, we will get it. I think they will be playing 2 matches or so. Yeah, first and yes, they should just go out there and do that. If we can do this, maybe you'll go to the AFCON and...
Does any of what you said improve our chances?
I don't think so.
It doesn't.
I mean, I won't say we can't win it completely, because I know a lot of things happen in football, but I'm not as confident as some people are.
So you think our best out of this maybe what?
You see, we've been to the finals how many times? Twice or 3 times in the last 6 or so appearances, and there's a certain fatigue, which is that this time we must win it. But looking at how things are shaping up, the strength of our team and all those factors, I do not think that...
Our best is what? Quarter-final, semi-final, group stage exit?
I'll be pleasantly surprised if we get to the semis.
Michael?
Same with him. But first of all, just to do a quick correction, I've been corrected by Mr. Fred Papu, former Vice President of the FA. In 2010, there was no general captain and captain. There was just a captain, which was Stephen Appiah, and a vice captain, which is basically the sort of arrangement that we were encouraging the team to do. I think, you see, I've seen worse things in football. Jan writes a half-hearted apology, walks back into the team, discovers his mojo again, and then everybody goes on. Or it could go potentially bad. I didn't think we were going to win the Nations Cup with John in. A friend of mine said to me today, at the peak of the powers of some of our best players, John, Essien, Muntari, Stephen Appiah, all of them, we didn't win the Nations Cup. It's not about to change. What I think we will see, as always, is a very good team. It's a team with a lot of players, younger ones determined to make a case for themselves with a good blend of old players. And they will leave that tournament with their dignity intact. I'm just not sure they will be back on the plane with a trophy in hand.
Okay, so I guess that leaves the question. I think we're all resigned, but the president doesn't seem to have some hope that this
Politicians
might.
have but also you have to understand that for us, part of our job doesn't allow us to make categorical statements.
Yes. So you have to be. So, I know if you have made a categorical, I know what you have said. But finally, this all happens at a time when there's a bigger operation happening. We're trying to normalize Ghana football. And we seem to forget that. But if you put what is happening now within that context, that we haven't finished that process, it's a challenge already. Yeah. And then this is dropped in. Yeah. What does it do to this process?
Not much, because the problems that led us to this point are quite different from whatever is happening with the Black Stars. What brought us to this point?
Ghana football is never Black Stars. So what are you trying to normalize? It's Black Stars.
But we all know that the problems that brought us here was more about how the FA was running domestic football, not necessarily the Black Stars, which I think to some extent they were doing it well. But it was more about domestic football, which was crumbling, and I do not think that
this will have any.
It will not have any impact on it.
No, I just think the only connection you can draw is that ideally in a more organized setting, not to say the normalization team is not but it's not the same as having a full-blown team working and that sort of thing. Maybe a lot of this could have been avoided. Bottom line is, hopefully this teaches us a lesson about separation of powers, levels of authority within the team. What layers do you go through when you're naming your squad? The coach has been defending his squad in front of the Black Stars management team. Kwesi appears Asamoah Gyan's name was in there. He informed them that he didn't want Gyan to go as captain. He gets the fullback. He may be in a formal footballing setting. The Ministry of Sports won't have so much power. The presidency won't be so neck involved. But that's as much as you can draw from it. There are lessons to be drawn. It's ideal to have a lot of state backing in these things, but it's even more important to sort of take a back seat from it, because at the end of the day, this is just football. So
is it true that the squad is out? Not true.
No.
Not true. And by the way, this defending has been doing is Sule Muntari in?
No.
It's not in. Sule Muntari is not. Because, by the way, I'm just asking. But that's for the PMS person tonight. I'm grateful that they joined us. I really learned a lot about what is going to happen in the AFCON. I didn't know a lot about this until now. Maybe there's something good about this Gyan incident after all. A lot of us who've just given up on the Black Stars are beginning to pay attention again. Somehow, now I'm a bit more interested in how they'll perform in the tournament. And so maybe there's a silver lining after all. Let's see what happens tomorrow if Gyan heeds to the president's call to rescind the decision. Enjoy your evening.